many games tonight. There's just a handful, and I got to get prepared for Saturday where there's a ton of games. So what I'm doing now is I'm going through and making the predictions, and I just want to give you an idea of the scope because it's enormous. Here's the game starting. The very first games in the morning, and then as we go throughout the day, I try to keep these things in order so we can kind of track with them. And we have no lines here. We'll get those lines once Vegas gets them out. But there's a few games that don't have lines on them yet. But so I give you the scope of what we're dealing with here. I'm about halfway, so um, this is uh, this is quite the endeavor. And every Saturday, I think this is going to be our last enormous Saturday of the year because we're going to start whittling some teams down. And I don't want to go over these, but maybe if you're interested, you can stop the tape and jot some notes down on some of the picks that the computer is making. I'll try to pause here a little bit just so you can uh, grab a couple of scores if you're curious. The games that are shaded in green are our money line plays, and I'll talk about those here in a minute. And Saturday, we normally have quite a few of them. So, and I'll the issue is I'll take this game for example. Oklahoma State is the better team. Okay, but they're traveling all the way over to Norman from Stillwater, and because of that, it's going to give um, the Oklahoma is going to be the favorite. And so Vegas is saying Oklahoma is going to be giving Oklahoma State 3.5. Well, we say Oklahoma State wins the game. Okay, so the underdog wins the game is what we're saying on these money lines. And so that's what we're saying here. So if Oklahoma State does win the game, we'll get paid back more than a conventional bet. One of these. This is 2-1. So if Toledo beats Miami of Ohio and covers, we give them $100. Our bet's $100. We'll get $200 back. Okay, get your original $100 and plus $100. The money lines, we'll play the conventional. We make two plays here. We'll play the conventional and we'll play. So if you give them $100, the money line pays you back more than 100, and it's determined by Vegas, and it's a function of the points. If it's a half point spread, you're going to get maybe $105 back. But if it's a 3.5 point spread, maybe 115, 125, something like that. We got one where it's a 6.5 line, and we have the dog winning the game. That one should pay back quite well, and I'm looking forward here. I was surprised that maybe we don't. Maybe I was dreaming that. um, it's always a surprise, that Vegas has. Well, this game here, you know, Wagner is just a much better team. We have them winning by 10, the dog winning by 10 at Bryant. And Bryant's the favorite 2.5. And virtually every single one of these is the home team. We're saying that the away team is going to come in and win. Okay. So we've done quite well with these money lines. Last Saturday, we're tracking them here. Last Saturday, we hit 19 money lines. That's impressive. And since we started this contest, this saga, we've had 155 we've converted. So pretty good on the money lines. Not doing so great. Here's one we had 12. Not doing so great. Another 12 on. There's a 14 on the straight up plays. We're 1,105 wins, 1,089 losses, right at 50%. And that's not what we were hoping to get much higher than that. Now, as you can tell, we're entering into the end of the season. Let me grab a different conference here. And so we're almost done with conference play. Well, there's some conferences that are almost done. Like Saturday would be the last games of conference play. Then we go into the conference tournaments. Now, typically in the conference tournaments, there's 35 different conferences, and there'll be, and each one of them does it slightly different. So some conferences are going to have the lower seed host games. That's helpful to us. Some are going to have complete neutral site, and that's very helpful to us because we're going to eliminate a couple things. We're going to eliminate, like when Miami goes to Pittsburgh and beats the hell out of them. Pittsburgh didn't have any energy, right? And they kind of mailed it in, right? We see it all the time in college basketball. It's really frustrating. So you get these lopsided scores because Pitt's like, well, we don't stand a chance against Miami and Florida, so we're just going to not try. I mean, that's just how it is. So we're going to eliminate that nonsense because it's win or go home, most often. So there's no more of this candy ass bullshit, to be quite frank with you. That goes away. And then the home court advantage goes away. We get them on neutral courts. Suddenly, these numbers, these are the ratings of each team, are going to be significant. And we're going to boil it down to how good is this team versus how good is that team when they play. In fact, these two play here on Saturday. Since this is a lower number is a better team. We say North Carolina is going to probably beat them by a good 10 points, 10, 15 points. But that's kind of the setup here. I wanted to do just a handful of these predictions so you kind of get an idea of how the computer thinks and what it's looking for and that type of thing. But what you have to know is everything's based on these ratings, okay? So here's Gonzaga with the lowest rating in all the land at 8.31. Arizona at 8. I haven't reset these rankings in about a week. We'll do that on Sunday night. So some of these may have jostled. Like USC with a poor performance against Oregon State, they're going to drop a little bit. They're going to fall, and Purdue and Tennessee are going to leap them. Matter of fact, interesting, because we've got Tennessee beating Kentucky. I'm going to have to go back and check that because I don't think that's right. I think Kentucky's going to win that game. But you can see we got every single team rated and ranked here, and from number 1 all the way down to number 358. And there's some teams that are going to move here once we reset the rankings. I like to go and do it week by week. I could do it every day if I wanted to, but I like to see the movement. Like, okay, we're going to expect Oregon to move up. We'll expect Oklahoma State to move up, Mississippi State to move down. I like to see the movement, just to get an idea. So Murray State, for example, I know they're not number 55. They're much better than number 55. And we're going to start moving them up based on the merit of how they're playing. So that's always fun to see. But yeah, we've got them all the way down, every single team, all 358 of them, all rated and ranked. And there we go. There it is. So in case you're wondering, worst team in college basketball, IUPUI. I don't even know what that stands for. I mean, why should I care? Why does an IUPUI drop down to Division II, right? I mean, they're horrible. Anyways, we got them all. So I was going to do some picks here, and here's one that I just did: Morgan State and Delaware State. And we're looking for games played. I'm going to put the OPR, the overall power rating. That's this number. I'm going to put in there. I'm going to do their points for the year and their points against for the year. And then we do a little magic up here. I have it hidden just because it's kind of ugly, but we got some technical things. We run the calculations through. HCA is home court advantage. I don't know what to use for that, so there's just zeros. I don't do anything to mitigate home court advantage, and that's why we're 50% on these conventional plays, but it's also why we're 155 on the money lines. Okay, it works for us and works against us. If we added say 10 points to every home team, boy, I bet you we don't even get above 25, but we play them all straight up, no home court advantage given. And I've experimented with certain ways of doing it, but I want a universal way I can apply it to every team. So let's say Houston, gets a home court advantage. If I settle on, let's say, 8 points, well, Houston probably has a higher than 8-point home court advantage, right? And we just go grab it. Just okay, Detroit Mercy. Should they get an 8-point home court advantage? They're not the team. They don't have the following. They don't have the program that, say, a Houston does. So why would I give them the same amount? But I'm looking for a universal number because I don't want to have to figure out. There's just no way. It's unmanageable. So I just don't do anything, and that's why we're doing terribly bad here. But let's knock out a couple of these things. So we go to the board here, and there's that Morgan State, Delaware State game, and you can see the computer said 73 to 60. That's our prediction, and that's the number we use. We just put it right there, 73 to 60. Okay, next up is Austin Peay at Eastern Illinois. So Austin Peay is going to be the favorite. Eastern Illinois is the home team. And Vegas says Austin Peay is going to win, and they're laying 7.5. Okay. We're going to go in here, put Austin Peay. This is just shorthand because I'm just going to strike over it when I do the next game. Austin Peay is a couple of Ohio Valley teams. Let's go find them here in the Ohio Valley. And we're going to grab Austin Peay's overall power rating. They played 25 games. I'll show you how I figured that here in just a moment. They've scored, I'm just going to remember this number because that's Eastern Illinois' rating, 16.28. So they've scored 1576 and they've allowed 1740. There's nothing great about Austin Peay. And here's the 25 games. 16.1. 16.28. So I'm going to auto sum this. So I can only have to remember. So this is going to take this number and place it where I need it. And I just have to remember this number and 16.28. So 1740 for the points against and 16.28. Now we just need to get Eastern Illinois' points for, points against. They played 27 games, 1922. And 27 games. Here's our prediction. It's right here, 77-58 Austin Peay. Oh, wait a minute. That flipped at the last second. 67-51 is what we say the final score is going to be. And is that greater than 7.5 or less than 7.5? It's greater than 7.5, so that's our pick. If it were less than 7.5, we'd take Eastern Illinois. Okay, so Presbyterian is at UNC Asheville, and they're getting 4.5. So I'm going to straighten out that here. It's Asheville hosting Presbyterian. And what did I say, 4.5? Double check that. 4.5. Okay. So we're going to come here, Asheville and Presbo. Okay, just shorthand. And these are Big South teams. So let's go into the Big South. And we'll get UNC Asheville's numbers first, but we're going to look at Presbyterian, 13.3. I'm just going to remember that, 13.3, and Presbyterian. They played 25 games, 13.3. And the 25 carried over from previous teams, so we don't have to do that. Back into the Big South. Go get Asheville's points for, points against. I just have to remember 1737. And there's a double check I do. It happens fast here, but we know it's 13.3. We already got that. So back into the Big South to get Presbyterian's numbers. 17.37, that's my double check. And Presbyterian. had played 27 games, 1723, but I don't have to remember that. I have to remember 27 games and 1858. And that's it. We got all the data filled in, and computer says 69-63 will be the final. 69-63. It's a 6-point difference, so Asheville's our pick. We say they're going to win and cover. Okay, next up is VCU at UMass, and with VCU favored. So, and they're favored by 5.5. So we just do the same thing again. Go over here, VCU, UMass, into the A10. For these two. And they're both down at the bottom of the page. And we can look at them right here, and tell that VCU's got the lower rating. They should be the better team, and most likely will win the game. So 10.33 and 26. Point 4. $17.02 points against 1581. And we just fill in the blanks. That's all you do. Let the computer do the work. I say it's a computer. It's really just a spreadsheet. Okay, they played 26 games. And back into the A10, the Atlantic 10. They've allowed 2,020 games or 2,020 points. And I just do a quick double check on that games played. So we say VCU wins 72-59. The line's 5.5. And we say 13. And so VCU's our pick there. Georgia Tech at Notre Dame. Notre Dame laying 9.5. Nine and a half. And shorthand people. And if you don't know, Notre Dame plays in the ACC in basketball. I think it's all other sports other than football where they're an independent. So you can find Notre Dame in the ACC. And we see Notre Dame right there with a 10.35 rating. They played 27 games. Trying to get us a money line so we can kind of see how that works. 1912, 1804. And Georgia Tech, go get their rating, their OPR, their overall power rating. And if anyone's typing me comments, I can't see them because I'm working on the spreadsheet. 11.52, and they played 27 games. And here's your points for and points against. 18. They've allowed more than they've scored. 1891. That's never a good sign. And we say final score 70-60. So it looks like Notre Dame's going to barely win and cover because it was 9.5. So 70-60. So that half point's going to determine this. So we're going to take the favorite again. There's a string up here where it's all dogs. There's 3 in a row. They're all by half a point. Vermont and UMass Lowell. That's a half up. We say the Vegas is 16.5. We say 16. So by virtue of the half point, we're taking the dog. Same thing here. Howard and North Carolina Central, half point. taking the dog, and the final one, three in a row. UNC Wilmington, and I like this play, to be honest with you. I'm not excited about either one of these, but I do like this play. But by virtue of the half point, very rarely are we this far off from Vegas. This is a mile and a half off from Vegas. I don't know what on earth they're thinking. That this is going to be a close game. It's just way too many points. They're overlooking and giving and just not applying any kind of common sense. Northwestern State's not a good team. I don't care if they're at home. But normally, we see a lot of this. Tulsa, we say it's a 1 point game. The line's 1.5. Okay, we see this a lot. Sometime on these, the bigger the blowout predictions, we get a little further out. But normally it's very tight with Vegas. 4.5 to 6. Let's see. Next up is Missouri State and Evansville. This is at Evansville. Evansville is not good, but Murray State is very good, or Missouri State rather. It's at Evansville. So. And what was that line? 13.5? 13.5. Okay. A little bit tedious. And when there's 140 plus games, it's very tedious. It takes a long time. Evansville. Now, I'll show you something here that I do that's kind of a subtlety. And it's if I don't do what I'm about to show you, I can't have it. I can't have a system that communicates to each other. So 10.39, Missouri State is 20-9, so they played 29 games. And 1981. But here's the what's going on here? 1981. So Evansville. So I have caps on how bad I let teams get, because if I didn't, we would go zooming off to in this case, Google Docs would not be able to calculate how far it goes up. So I have to cap these teams, the bad teams. I like to do it on the lower end so it doesn't affect the high end too much. But you see it's 13. They've hit a cap, and so I have to use what I call the true OPR, which is actually up here. So 13.38 is their real rating. And if I didn't do that, the really bad teams would just go skyrocketing. And if you happen to play one of them, you're going to get that stink all over you. And, because I'll show you why. Let me finish my thoughts here. Because every time you play a team, their rating gets plugged into your strength of schedule column. Okay. And then we add them all up, the strength of schedule, and we divide by the number of games played. And that gets our strength of schedule, which is part of the formula. I didn't get their games played. Let me go back in the Missouri Valley, and they played 27. Okay, so we say 73.50 is going to be the final here. 73.50, so 23-point margin of victory, which is great. So this whole string is nothing but favorites, and that's kind of typical for us. But we do play some dogs, and of course we play a ton of money lines, which is all underdogs, winning the game. So it may look like it's really heavy on the favorites, but there's some dogs in there, and they're favorites for a reason. Okay, so next up is Murray State, who's fantastic. They're at Southeast Missouri State, and Vegas says 11.5. So Murray State at Southeast Missouri State, 11.5. So these two teams are in the Ohio Valley. Let's go do a little shorthand here. And then let's go look at Murray State because they've got some great numbers. It's a very good team. And they just beat the second best team in the Ohio Valley by a ton. That would be Belmont. Belmont is really good. And they beat them 76-43. Okay, Murray State is for real. There's just absolutely no question about it. They're under 10, means they're borderline monster. Borderline. You know, teams like Gonzaga, Arizona, Houston, all these top teams, those are bona fide monsters. So Murray State is kind of a almost a monster. 1598. I didn't see that final, that 76-43 over Belmont, a really good team. I did not see that happening, but that's what happened. And here's Southeast Missouri State. They're above our cap, so we got to get the true OPR from them. And then down, get the rest of the info. They've allowed more than they've scored. They've played 27 games, and I've already forgot that number. Missouri Valley. Ohio Valley, rather. 21-33. Oh, that was weird. 78-52 is what we say for final. And I think that's going to be another favorite. It is. Yeah. I don't want to get too far off the beat. Damn it. I must have had something else. I keep doing the same dumb thing. Copy, not paste. Okay. Let me just take a quick scan, see if I can't find a potential money line play. Oh, here's one right here. No, we're on the same side. Yeah. No, we're in agreement on most of these, so I don't see any money line. Yeah. I don't see any money lines out there, so I'll just do a couple more and let y'all go. We got Nicholls State at Southeastern Louisiana State, laying a 1.5. This is the Southland, that conference I struggle with. And I think it's just Nicholls, to be honest with you. Southeast Louisiana State. And they're laying 1.5. I just struggle with the Southland, the SWAC, and the MEAC. Who was this? Nicholls and Southeast Louisiana State. Southeast Lou. So into the Southland we go. And let's go grab Nicholls info. Here they are here. They're below the cap, so we can go down here and use live numbers. That's another thing. There's not a ton of teams that are over these caps. And that is because there's a cap. It keeps the numbers communicating. Instead of hitting roadblocks like these caps, it's like a roadblock. I don't allow them to get any worse than a certain amount. And I finesse that. I'll go through weekly and I'll finesse that. I'll adjust it in this team by team. I just want to keep it accurate. I want to keep it within the same stratosphere, because we lose the bubble quickly. Some of these ratings would go into the millions, right? A bad team would just have a terrible rating, and then it lifts all the boats around it, and you don't want it to. So here we got to get theirs. They're above the legal limit, and let's get their info. Southeastern Lou. They've played 25 games, 1914, 1992. What did I say, 25 games? 75-67 is our predicted scores. 70, man, the hell, Google Docs, 78 to 70. You sure now? It's changed on me 3 times here. 78 to 70. A point and a half, that seems a little bit ridiculous. Nichols is a way better team than Southeast Lou. Okay, next up is Portland, who's playing really well, but they're at Santa Clara, and Santa Clara is really good. So Santa Clara is laying 10 and a half. So West Coast Conference matchup. Yeah, 10 and a half. So, and I think unfortunately for Santa Clara, the West Coast Conference is a mid-major. They'll get 2 teams in the tournament because Gonzaga is a shoe-in, and then you have San Francisco, who they just played. It was a really good game, but San Francisco's too good to ignore. Even though I bet you they're going to try to ignore, but and they better put that team in because they're really good. Well, so Santa Clara. And we even talked about BYU. I don't think BYU deserves to get in, but so Gonzaga, well, St. Mary's, of course, is going to get in. So there's 2. San Francisco would be the 3rd, and I think we run out of room with Santa Clara. I don't think Santa Clara gets in, and that's really unfortunate because they're really good. 2079 and 29 games. But it's going to be a shame, and hopefully they'll get an opportunity to play in the postseason somewhere else. I'm sure they will. West Coast Conference. Portland has been playing really well lately. They got a new coach. I think they got a little new attitude, and they're below the cap. They're 15 and 12, but look at this: 1, 2, 3. They got 5-game winning streak. One of them was at home hosting San Francisco. They beat San Francisco. It's very impressive. The rest of these are kind of mid-run West Coast Conference teams, but Portland used to be one. You see their numbers are 12.19 versus Pepperdine and Pacific, who are both capped, right? You see 13 flat that's capped. So you got to go up and look at their true OPR. 13.1, 13.18, But Portland's just a better team. And I got this thing loaded up. I don't know what I'm looking for. 12.19. Yeah, that is what I needed. Okay. Portland points scored. Yeah, I think there'll be some good things happening for Portland in the future. 1929, 1939, 27 games. 1939 and 27 games. But Santa Clara, the future is now for them. So it's a 15-point victory for Santa Clara. What was that? 75-60, 75-60. And maybe it's at Santa Clara, but maybe Portland puts up a bit of a fight, like they did if they played against the way they did against San Francisco. I'd keep my eye on Portland. Okay, Radford at North Carolina A&T, laying 3.5. This might be a money line. I didn't realize that. So it's Radford at NCANT. This might be a money line. And 3.5 is the line. And these are Big South teams. Radford and North Carolina A&T. So we'll find out here in just a second if this is a money line play or not. Into the Big South. Radford, 13.27, that's above the max, so their number is actually 13.51. But what's North Carolina A&T's number? Where'd you go? Ooh, folks, 13.43. We got some money line. Let's do this. 13.43. So we flip these. All right. So now let's make sure all the info is in and correct. Back into the Big South, get NCAA's info. I'm glad we stumbled into that, into the Big South. Okay, 1636, 1779, they played 25 games. Why isn't this thing? Yeah, sometimes Google Docs is just uncooperative. This kind of stuff right here never happens on Excel. It's a little bit frustrating. Okay, so, okay, 1779 and 25. And let's get Radford's info. Well, we're going to do it a little bit differently since we're going up, and we know, yeah, I got to get the cap. We're above the cap. I'm just going to do their points for that's what I'm going to encounter first. So let's do the most efficient way and save some time. 1464, 1609, and 24. Now let's go get that OPR because we got to scroll. And we just have to scroll up and right back down if we did it the other way. 13.5. It's going to be close. It's going to be a very close game. But, yeah, see, very close. Okay. All right. So now we're going to take a little deeper dive. Up here, I have hidden more of the string here. So I look at this raw score in a case like that when I have both teams came up with the same number. And I'm going to say North Carolina A&T 66, Radford 68. And rehide this thing. 66 to 60. What did I say? 66 to 65. Okay, we're going to move this 3.5 up to here. We're going to flip these teams because North Carolina A&T, we say, is going to win the game. Where is this game? Is that? Ooh. Well, this is really unusual because the home team is who we're saying is going to win. Boy, I like that. These are all visiting team playing the home team on the money line and winning. This is very unusual where we had to flip it to the unless that's not Radford, unless that's not North Carolina A&T's home court. What does it say? It just says it's in Greensboro, North Carolina. So sometimes I'll do this. Where is Radford University? University. Not hugely important from our perspective because we don't really do anything. City of Radford, Virginia. Okay, that's UNC, or that's the NCA&T. Yeah, that's a solid money line play right there. I mean, that's solid. I like that play. They're at home, they're getting points, and they're the better team. I mean, that's just that simple. Okay, that same San Francisco team is going to go down that we've been talking about. It's going to go down to San Diego and play University of San Diego. And the line is 12.5. So San Francisco going down to play San Diego. And it's 12.5. Okay, same thing like we've been doing. We'll go USF and USD. Back into the West Coast Conference. Go get San Francisco's numbers, and they are good. They're very good. They're 20-8, which means they played 28 games. You're welcome. They're below the 10.0. I'll show you why that's significant here in just a moment. I tell you what, man, if this team doesn't get in, it would just be an absolute crime. They're so good. So we're going to counter the OPR first. I don't think USD is under the cap. I think they're over the cap. But I might be wrong. Oh, they're under the cap. And we had them already. 26 games. one final trip into the West Coast Conference. And 1663, 1775. So San Francisco wins 69, 72 to 51. You gonna change on me again? 72 to 51. So what is that? It's a 21-point margin of victory. Okay, I mentioned that they're below that 10.0 mark. And here's all, like Gonzaga's 8.31. And all these teams are at the top. We don't get into the 10.0s. Well, not many of them are below 10.0. Okay. And I'm so tempted to just re-rack these things right now. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll do it tonight and I'll do it Sunday as well. Because they'll move. So I got to highlight everything all the way down to IUPUI. And it takes a while. There we go. Got them all. And we go into the one thing I wish this thing did. I'm going to try it tonight, see what happens. I want to watch the top end move. I don't want to watch the bottom end move. I don't care about them. Sort range, advanced range, sorting options. Data has header. We want the number and go. Yeah, okay. We got it to work. Okay. So we did jump. I don't know if you saw it. It happened kind of quick. But so Gonzaga, number 1. Arizona, number 2. UCLA, number 3, even though they lost last night to Oregon. Houston, number 4. Baylor, number 5. Kansas, 6. Kentucky, 7. They got Tennessee on Saturday. And there's Purdue sandwiched in between Kentucky and Tennessee. And I got to go look at that game again. I might have to redo that. Auburn is number 10. Texas Tech, 11. Villanova got problems with these. USC, a lot of people don't think they belong that high, but we got them number 13. Duke, number 14. LSU at 15. LSU needs to be ranked much lower. They're not the 15th best team in the country. They're definitely they just keep losing. They can't win. Texas, UConn, Iowa, Illinois. Illinois just lost to Ohio State, which was interesting. And Arkansas is playing Kentucky. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Arkansas is playing Kentucky at home on Saturday. That'll be a great game. But the interesting thing to me is Arkansas has leaped above Alabama. I've been watching this all year, and it finally happened. They've I don't know what I'm trying to say. They leaped Alabama, which I think was significant. The Mountain West has been really entertaining. They're really loaded conference, a ton of good teams. San Diego State just lost at Boise, and I see Boise here at number 30. I still think San Diego State's a better team, even though it was a 1-point loss to Boise at Boise. So I still think San Diego State's the best in this conference. It's just loaded with just awesome teams. Here's Ohio State moves up from where they were with that victory over Illinois. Washington State kind of dropping a little bit. It's hard for me to consider this real when I look around who's in their presence here, and I see teams like Loyola, Chicago, St. Mary's, Xavier, San Francisco. Stanford's a joke. The Stanford is not this good. They need to be out of here. But all year long, Washington State has been in the top 30, and I can't get them out, and they keep performing pretty well. So maybe it's just me. I mentioned Stanford's a joke. Let me show you why. Stanford has this just flipped because they have all year, they've allowed more points than they scored, but it just flipped with their last game. So they overcame that, and now they've scored one more point than they've allowed on the year. You can't be a top 30 team if that's how you're going to play. I mean, consider UCLA 1,978 points, and they've allowed 1,677. That's a big spread, right? Same with USC. 200-point difference here in 28 games. So, they're beating teams by a lot. Now, since they were here and I brought them up, yeah, I mean, there's Washington State, 200 points better than their opponents. So um, they played USC real tough. They kind of dogged it at UCLA, hung with Oregon, which they were at Oregon. Arizona State's so hard to figure out. They did lose at home to Arizona State. That's not good. But 12 points to Arizona at home, yeah, it could have played better. But we're not talking about them being in the top 10. They're in the top 30. I just can't figure out why they're in the top 30, but they just keep performing well. So I mean, they're 15-12 for crying out loud, and they're in the top 30. It just doesn't seem to really add up. But I can't get them out. Well, we had a little taste of a lot of different things here. So we got to do a money line and got to talk about other things and got to dig into the computer a little bit. And yeah, what's it been? It's been 45 minutes. I think that's good. We should probably just call it. Hey, thanks for joining me. I'm going to get back to work and finish these predictions. It's going to be well into the night. It's so many games. But tomorrow I'm going to do these little bite-size. I'll jump in and do a bite-size, like a 20-minute deal to get us caught up. And last Saturday, we ended up doing like 5 of them. It worked out pretty well. 15, 20 minutes, just get current on the final scores and show you, where we're at, how many money lines we've converted, that type of thing. So I'll do that tomorrow as well. And I'll see y'all then. All right. Thanks, folks. Talk